This probably goes without saying, but the MPC One is a trap beats monster. What's up, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. There's this flavor of hip-hop, often instrumental, that takes elements of trap, funk, vaporwave, and lo-fi and kind of just brings them all together in this sample-based, gritty, but still chill vibe that I absolutely love and hopefully achieved pretty well on the MPC One. So today I want to walk you through it and show you why this thing is a trap beats beast. All right, so let's get right into it, starting off with the drums. I'm taking full advantage of the way that this thing is laid out for beat making. What I've done is what I usually do in making beats. I just hopped into Browse, hopped onto my SD card, and just started fishing around for samples and just loaded a bunch of stuff in. So like a bunch of kicks, snares, perks, and hi-hats, and then added more as I needed them, and then just very quickly started to try to build something up. I started with the drums, by the way. I found that really helpful these days. So this is our main kick. Not really processing it at all. And then I've got two separate other kicks. First of all, this kick layer. And this kick has quite a few of these like extra drum effects on it, including tube drive, high pass, and this is just turning the gain down a little bit. And these layer quite nicely. And I'm just using it for emphasis and some extra grit. And then this extra third kick with a little bit of soft clipper, and that's about it. Just as a little accent part. I've also got two snare layers. This kind of classic sharp trap snare, and then this kind of like Foley snare layered together, plus this extra snare, which, by the way, the easiest way to get that triplet roll thing is to just go into note repeats and change this to triplet and eighth. And then just be sure to change it back, or else everything is going to start quantizing itself to that, which is a bit of a weird quirk of how this thing deals with quantization, but that is neither here nor there. I have auto pan sync on this element, and then one more little percussion element, which started life as like a lo-fi kind of cross stick. I've pitched it way up, added spring reverb to it, and that just kind of like floats around in the background. So let me mute these hats. Plus another extra little offbeat snare. I'm just adding percussion to add interest at this point. Plus hi-hats. So very simple 808 hi-hat. This real hi-hat on top of it. And then some hi-hat rolls. And in this case, in addition to the note repeat, I am also using just straight up pitch automation, just like played in live to get those pitch bend effects. The other thing on the drums is that I've gone in and processed the entire drum bus. So for one thing, I've just got a limiter to catch some peaks. And then I've added the SB1200. So here's without, here's with. And the MPC 60 emulation. Without. With. That really brings those to life, I think. So there's quite a bit of extra stuff that I want to walk you through, but we'll get there when we get there. Let's talk about our main sample that I brought in after I made the drum part. I just brought in like a bunch of little electric piano riffs from a Marlowe Diggs pack, and then set about finding the pieces that worked best for the drum beat that I had already made. So this is the star of the show. I've pitched it down a bit. just to get it in time with the drums, and I've also like cut off the beginning just a tiny bit. And then I have a couple of other separate one-shots, and I've got these set to a mute group. So this is doing most of the heavy lifting. And this comes in mainly in that second section that I showed you. So that's actually pretty straightforward, pretty simple, really. Like, flipping the sample is maybe a bit generous, but hopefully I was able to do it justice, at least. On top of that, I've got this vocal also from a Marlowe Diggs pack. And I did some kind of intense manipulation to it to get it to like be in key with everything else. So what I have done is like, I'm sorry to the vocalist if this is like sacrilege, but I've pitched this around. I've chopped this little vocal phrase in two, and then I've added quite a bit of effect. It's like in a totally different key, but I heard something there. So what I have done, I've tuned it a bit to be in key with the piano, added some flavor, some headphones simulation, and a little bit of distortion and flutter, EQ, reverb, similar treatment here, and then those elements are like the foundation of this beat. From there, I set about making an 808 part that would match what that electric piano is doing. So let's go to that next. This is just an 808 sample from a Ramzoid pack that, if I go into Program Edit, has quite a bit of distortion on it. So it's a great sample by itself. I had diode clip and a tube drive on top of that with just a little bit of drive. And this cuts through the mix really nicely. Like, I really like how gritty it sounds and how it contrasts with such a chill electric piano sample. That's already really fun. But then on top of that, this will mean that this beat will translate pretty well on smaller speakers, because maybe the sub doesn't come through, but the gritty lower mids and mids of the bass do. And I should also note that I've reduced the attack of this, so it doesn't really sound like a kick, it's just the tail of it, so it doesn't fight with the actual kick. And on top of that, I am using one of the paid plugins. Your daily reminder that you don't need to buy them, but because I do have them, I will occasionally reach for them just for something basic. In this case, I'm literally mirroring what both the electric piano chop and the vocal chop are doing, kind of stringing those together into one continuous melody. Which is fun. And then on top of that, I have duplicated the entirety of my piano and vocal chop track, including all of the note data on it. And I've done this to it. It's now this floaty element on top of everything. So what I have done is a pretty classic trick I like to do in the DAW, and I did it here instead. So that's what it originally sounds like. Pitch shifter, which sounds bad on its own. Send that to the reverb. Send that to the granulator. That washes it out really nicely. I've got it set to reverse. And then EQ out the mud and the harshness. And that sits really nicely on top of this part. And in the second section, I have this extra little lead, which is a hype preset. That is one of the built-in synths that comes free with this thing. But I've once again added quite a bit in terms of effects to make it a lot vibier. Granulator, this time an octave up. Makes it sound like space. And ensemble, just on its default setting, which I actually really like how it washes out the sound. And then once again, cleaning up some mud with an EQ. And I could probably make a bit of a better like ARP or melody part with this thing, but hopefully you get the idea and you kind of see where I'm going with this for some just vibey, floaty sounds. And finally, one other fun thing is the fact that you can put XY effects on individual tracks. And then if you have that track active, so in this case, that's track 2, If I go to XY, I've gone and selected the tape stop preset for the XY effects, and I've got the release set to be a little higher than normal. So now, that's fun. It's not particularly useful for something that you would like multi-track and export, but it's fun. Obviously, I've been talking up the features of the MPC quite a bit in this video because there's a lot that it does really well for this style of music, but the full story is a bit more complicated. So if you'd like to know whether the MPC is for you, jank and all, you can check out this video up over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video in a little bit.